Here that I know is. All right, I call this meeting of the school board and the budget committee to order. All right, if you join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And as I expressed a few minutes ago, this school board will be going into a non-public. We will be leaving. Can I have a motion from somebody?
So moved. Second.
And because we have Sarah joining us remotely, we will take a roll call. So Sarah, are you there? I think you're muted.
Unmute. I'm here.
All right. And your vote to move into non-public for contract. Do I have a yes or no from you?
Say
Vogel, yes.
I'm
Say yes.
sorry, say it one more time.
We're moving into non-public for contracts.
I'm
Taking a roll call. Are you a yes or no?
the sound is going in and out, so I'm not sure what I'm saying yes to, so. Oh, I froze.
Yeah.
Yes.
Teague, yes.
Thompson, yes.
Keith, yes.
Bascom, yes. Yeah, they're frozen on the screen.
Yeah. Then I should have her cut her video feed.
Can you, close your screen?
We have enough votes.
We do.
Gonna call her. Just wanted to-
Okay, so we will be back shortly.
I think I have a better connection now.
We're gonna make you call a cell phone anyway.
At this time, the budget committee will take up our agenda, and we'll start with approval of minutes. Can I just check in first with Michael and Ahmed online with us? Can you hear okay?
Yes,
Yes,
Thank you. Item 1 on our agenda tonight, approval of the 01/04/24 meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to accept them as presented?
so moved.
By Michael.
Mike Aaron, so moved.
Okay. Seconded by Amanda. Any discussion? All those in favor, roll call vote. Michael?
Yes,
Amanda?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ahmed?
yes.
Motion passes. Now we'll wait. The next agenda item is the report of the administrators.
Well, that makes it a little harder than yes. You think they'll be long?
2 to 5 to possibly more minutes.
Very specific. Oh, was that because of weather? Yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know a few things.
Might be the old George Carlin routine. Tonight will be dark, followed by increasing light in the morning.
That's what you like for the water.
I'll give you an update. And it's going very nice. Not pretty though. Far too many important things to do tonight, don't worry about that. No, I'm saying, I didn't recognize any member. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
We have one.
20. And part of it, I'm sure it's not. My understanding was. That's what I was saying. They won't walk in, he's just. Cycle. So. They get to use. Now you only get 5 to 6 years. Yeah, he likes it a lot.
Yeah.
You're posting for.
Yeah, it is.
Or I'm posting it this morning.
He's not. Yeah. And That makes it sort of good soft.
Yeah, we're hearing that. It's shot. Yeah, we keep hearing that across.
We don't have too much.
I think that's.
You're not on yet, please, yeah?
This is pulling up the app.
Yeah, because that was, it's on the bottom. Yeah, and then you have, and then you have to toggle over to live, so instead of being on the school app, you toggle over to room.
Yeah, I'm going next thing I'm really like. The army.
5:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm covered.
No, it's not you, it's scheduling on my part. Figure it out.
Right, and that's the stuff that parents don't want to see.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be a couple minutes late, but I'll be there.
Yes. Oh, well.
Dad jokes.
Talk about the blacks.
It was like the best, like, it wasn't even intentional. It was like the best. I'll find out. What I was in Western Maine, like, between farming and agriculture.
No range.
That's right.
She's on that stretch.
There is so much that I do. And then usually I get there wasn't a bowling alley on Yeah. I think yeah, I'm like.
Remember how?
How many times have you had?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you're going over to. Rockford. And that was.
I don't know if I want to. February.
How we doing?
You're a federal model down.
Anything else is value, so.
I didn't expect it though. Yeah, they're waiting on us.
Yeah.
No.
Michael and I have.
And she knows. He is in.
I showed him
You just like, feel like it. Yeah. No,
They got, they had to have it sprayed.
He's not. We did. And that's what. Yes. Yeah.
The water was like, McDonald's was like literally underwater. So like all this water, and so. Yeah, so now we're gonna. And
Yeah, I just. My mom.
Yes.
And she would go out on these things, and she was like, list the times, and then here we go. Just remember that.
I didn't think we could get a second. Maybe I can get a second. Maybe I could get a second or whatever. it's up to. You know, after all of that. I agree. At the end of last meeting, I said what.
And the problem. He says, and that's what everyone. Don't worry, it's not protected. I mean.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
I was trying to plan it out in the summer.
Yeah, and you know what, I would think tonight's. But considering it's a joint, this is the job.
Yeah, right.
There's a background. And they have to do right check. And they pay them. I don't know, they get. They get research. Pay for this. Is that how? Yeah. Oh, they're on. No, Michael and Ben. The other six of us. We do have that's the expectation. I said what I had to say. But it is the most. Last year we had more.
Oh my God, I do it all the time. I'll be in my car. Yeah, that's what I. Yes, I do. I do. Thank you. Yeah. I'm expecting.
Friday morning, hopefully, so I'm doing it on school day. So that we can see their beers. Showcase. So we'll showcase. So it's like, since it's been years, it's been like 5 years. Yes. She don't like it back. Okay, so I'm gonna send a card you use. You're gonna collect it, you're gonna submit it. Yeah, it's not necessarily the same. You only need one card. Why do you think they jump out?
Yeah.
On two?
But I started our schedule. Yeah.
Right. Around on it. No, and it may still All right, so sending it back. Yeah. Yeah, so the state has its color, okay? But there's. That comes by them, that's in the back of us, so I'm hoping that-
No, not that burden.
You get that home. That'll make a lot matter. Okay, so I don't want to-
How we doing? Yeah. I'm not in.
Hoping you guys leave.
You got it all figured out, right? Everything's good? Yeah, so everything well.
Well, I gave that sheet to everybody. So.
Just exited.
So do I want two minutes or do we actually make the motion to approve what we just did?
You mean, as far as like.
We have to make the motion. Okay. We need to discuss that.
Okay, so Bill, like, we can just move forward. You gave them. That's up to you. Depends on how. How you want to proceed, but you don't have to. I mean, you can just give them direction.
I think the budget committee would appreciate it if we kind of thought we gave what our kind of, they made the motion and so the budget committee knew the parameters that we were running under. It'd probably be helpful for them.
Okay.
So, fashion this on the fly. I make a motion to ask the administration to begin negotiations with the town of Langdon about an SRO with the provisions that we maintain the 80,000 in the budget and not increase that line item that's currently in the budget. No more than a.
So not to exceed $80,000.
Not to exceed $80,000, not to exceed a 3-year contract. Yeah, I think that's enough.
I would offer one small amendment.
Okay.
Whisper in my ear. Not done yet, so keep going.
Without, I guess that's like a solid stop, so I think that if they, I'm just gonna tell you my thought on it, I don't know how to formulate them. Without coming back to us, right? Because,
We still need to come to us for.
right, because I mean, right, because we're all assuming that will work out and will fit, but if it doesn't, I don't want people to think it's a completely dead deal.
So to come and the administration will come back to us with any negotiations that we need to, any further negotiations.
Second.
All right, do we have Sarah back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Sarah, we're gonna
I'm
take.
here.
How do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Jamie, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. Thank you very much. All right, before we get to the rest, I will take up the approval of minutes of December 4th, 2023 and December 11th, 2023.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, Sarah,
Yes.
Yes.
Jamie, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes, thank you very, very much. All right, we do have a lot of visitors here today. Is there anybody who would like to come introduce themselves and speak? All right, hearing none. We will move on to reports of our administrators.
Thank you very much. I'm just waiting for us to pull it up on here. For perfect. So one, good evening to the school board, good evening to the budget committee. Good evening to our audience that's here with us today, and good evening to our viewing audience that could not be with us today. Today, we are going to present, myself and the administration will present the superintendent's update, which will speak to our labor since the inception of my contract here at 7-1. This will help contextualize our budget decisions. It will not be as exhaustive as the November 13th presentation, but it will help to contextualize the work here. So I will begin by first revisiting our mission and vision. This centers all the work and all the decision-making that occurs from the administration, school board, and budget committee as we're looking to support our students and stay true to our mission and vision. So with each presentation, you have noticed and noted that I start the presentation there because this is what I use to guide my thinking and direct the administration as well. Mid-year update, just starting to think about our school district. This is a transformative process. We are looking to transform and innovate the Fall Mountain Regional School District. And that's us taking a hard look at our systems and thinking about the ways in which we service our students and a relationship between departments and our entire ecosystem. Coming into the system, I began June 28th, 30th, started at the conference. Thank you to the board for allowing my attendance. My first structural change, one of them was bringing Alice Cable into the superintendent's office. She's been working on developing a robust model for our family and community engagement, which has increased our communication. She'll speak to that subsequent to my initial report, and you'll also hear from the some of our department heads as they speak to some of these things. Started with the attendance area meetings to get a pulse from our communities, to look and listen, to find out what's important to our unique communities and understanding diversity across our attendance areas. That was followed by our school board retreat, our inaugural fall festival, to which we received a heightened degree of participation and favorable commentary from the public regarding the event. The second structural change was the lesson plan collection. We began to collect lesson plans from our teachers so that we could get a better understanding of what was being taught across content areas. In addition to that, we have recently completed our district walkthrough data collection phase, to which we went through our core classrooms within the district, myself and both our directors, to really gain insight into the instructional practices of the district as we are looking to build district priorities. I'll talk more in depth about that. You'll hear from our department heads tonight as well. In addition to that, upon arrival, I started with the 100-day entry plan that detailed what I was looking to accomplish in my first 100 days in office, delivered to the board on July 1st. We changed with the help of my technology department, we changed the district website to include the superintendent's corner, where you can now see the school superintendent briefs. You can see the superintendent updates, this presentation as well. And that is where you receive any timely information in regards to what the direction of the district from my office. In addition to that, I present the board with the iReady diagnostic SAT data on August 12th, the special education student achievement data on August 12th as well as the school climate and culture survey. Thank you to all of the parents, faculty, staff, and community members that participated in that survey. That was used to inform the November 13th presentation regarding my structural audit of the district. In addition to that, November 13th, presented the superintendent structural audit presentation to the school board viewing audience, as well as the superintendent structural audit report. Subsequent to that, once the data from the state was released and no longer embargoed, present the school board with the 2023 district accountability data on December 6th. And the district walkthrough data will be presented now. We'll touch on it today, and the school board will receive a complete copy. All of these deliverables, you'll understand by the close of this meeting how this informs what the administration has done this, within the first 6 months of this administration's tenure. So it's all, linked, inextricably linked, because it informs our work. I'm going to transition now to allow Alice Cable to give some updates regarding what she's doing with family community engagement. That will be followed by more exhaustive reports from our, department heads as well. Allison.
Hey, everybody. So, as Dr. Spence mentioned, when I started, when he started this year, we had a couple of initiatives right out of the gate. So one of the first things that we did was added the community section to the website to increase communications and access to resources outside the classroom. So we're going to continue to build on that. We launched that in September, and then we added a section for partnerships in October and November of 23. We'll be adding new sections. Right now, the additional info is about partnerships, food resources, and housing resources. So one of the next goals that I had is to increase external partnerships, really strengthen our relationships and build up a process for what that looks like. We already had been working very closely with organizations like the Hooper Institute or Turning Points Network. But what we want to do is improve our capacity through awareness of existing resources like that. So we did create a standard partnership document. We've got 8 organizations that are essentially ready to sign. We just want to create a PR opportunity for that to happen. So we're at timing with that. And we're also ensuring, back a second.
Oh, pardon.
And we're also ensuring, oh yeah, that the district is represented at external meetings too. So I try to make sure that I attend organizations like the Rural Health Equity Summit or Summit County Community Partners meetings. One of the other objectives that I have is to reduce outside the classroom barriers to education. So you've heard me talk about food access. Some of the results that we've had over the last couple of months been the food pantry here at the high school in room 8 is going to be getting a refrigerator so that we can have more donated perishable products. So the kids have actually been asking for healthier things than the shelf-stable things that we can get. We now have a weekend food program going in 2 attendance areas, and all of this is run through external funding and donations. And we have a volunteer supporting the efforts with that. An additional outside the classroom barrier to education is housing. So now in my office, we're taking on the McKinney-Vento liaison position. So we're supporting students experiencing interruptions in housing, and that's a federal law that we have to reduce the barriers that we can. Because of the amount of transition time that we have with that, we're updating and documenting processes so we can make sure that if there's another change that we can jump right into it. Also supporting students, and we're working on training staff. And then lastly, this year at least, we have access to a community room at North Charlestown. So it's an opportunity to engage with, using that space, to engage with and educate parents in the community, right? Because we've got an available space where we can meet parents. We had our first event on December 21st. We had limited attendance, but those who attended really appreciated it. And now we've got the material where we can do that again in a future year. We're also working on a Bienvenidos Familias event later this month. What is sensory integration for February, and assistive technology for March.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from our Director of Technology, who will talk about another change, which is a change to our, well, not really a change, we're augmenting our student management system, Power School, Unified Insights, and then we'll detail that.
Good evening, everyone. I am Lynn Pope, Director of Technology. The IT department is working on many different projects mid-year, and we thought we'd highlight a couple of our big ones, including Unified Insights. Unified Insights is a multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS. We currently have a group in district that is our MTSS administrative team, and we know and knew that they need some extra tools to be able to work with this aggregate data, including building a data warehouse. And that basically is what Unified Insights is. It basically collects district data from many different avenues to create that data visualization, embedded tools, drill downs, workflows, to create that comprehensive reporting with all of the student information system data and our other targeted areas. That includes our student analytics, attendance, so that we could have attendance intervention if there are issues, academics and grading, behavior support, social emotional learning, program specifics like special education, 504, ELL, assessments like our local assessment information, such as iReady, that each of our schools have already launched as of yesterday. And are basically our state and now national testing scenarios like SAS and PSATs, et cetera. And it ends up taking all of this data and bringing it into one overlay or interface. We've been working closely on the final stages with the developers and the engineers to bring this to the forefront. And now what you see below is basically charts, graphs, and tools that allow teachers and administration to drill into specifics. So if you see grading issues in the various highlighting colors, you can click on these areas. It's an interactive capability. Next steps, once we finish this overlay, will be training administration and teachers to use this data to their advantage, to really pinpoint where we can help that student or where we're doing well. But it actually will be the classroom, the school, the district. You can really zero in on specifics.
Lynn, hold on one second, just to add to that. In order to innovate and move the system forward, we have to understand in real time, insofar as possible, how our students are performing within the system, so that we can make sure that we are truly utilizing our positions such as intervention specialists and things of that nature to really add the academic support to the students. Prior to the implementation of this, when I first arrived, I found that we were looking at this data from a manual basis by using Excel spreadsheets, which is not an efficient use of the administration's time, the director's time, nor teachers. So this is going to allow, as Lynn stated, not only is it integrating the student information from the state iReady as a one-stop shop to find out how students are performing, it allows teachers in an efficient manner to look at that data and then build an instructional component unique to that. So think of it as going to the doctor's office, and now the doctor knows all your ailments and can provide you with adequate treatment. So this is a very large seismic shift. And Lynn, Ms. Phillips on Lynn today. Okay, all right. So Lynn is doing a really good job at working with the software engineers to make sure that it meets our needs in this context, but also working on a plan for implementation to make sure that it has a seamless rollout. I'd like to thank the IT department for that.
You're very welcome. There's a lot to encompass and grab that data in various programs through the state and the nation, and our own local data. So we have to really work with the engineers to bring that data, scrub that data, and bring it into a usable format. The next project that we're working on hopefully will be kicked off this Wednesday, and that is Power School Enrollment Express and eCollect forms. And that's going to allow the district to do digital online registrations beginning in the fall for any new additional students that enter the district. We are back to paper and pens, and that isn't an efficient way in today's society to enter data. This way, through Enrollment Express, the data entered from the home will be immediately updated in our student information system, so it will help the secretaries, the parents, keep data entry updated on a regular basis. And we're hoping to roll that out in the next month. I'm also working closely during this kickoff this week with Corey LeClaire, Charlestown Middle School principal, so that we can really bring the relevance of what principals need and what parents and teachers and that registration process looks like. And the next update that I'd like to share is rooms or Apogee rooms. Rooms is basically was purchased as an additional communication module as part of Aptigee. And we currently use Aptigee as our district website, which rolled out last year. We updated that through this software program. Aptigee also offered a one-way communication alert, which didn't give that feedback to us once we sent out that, say, some snow call or school announcement, transportation. I know Art consistently sends out alerts when you have to do it at a moment's notice. But we also realized that we needed that component that offered a two-way capability. And so the interim superintendent at the end of this term purchased this additional module communication system. So we've run with it, Kristen and I, as far as training, implementation, and just getting the data ready so that teachers and parents could communicate. We're piloting it this school year and working through some of the issues that we faced during implementation. But again, it's a consistent two-way teacher to home communication. 82% of our families have downloaded the app, and that is the app on the bottom left of the screen. So when you download it from the App Store or the Google Play Store, you click it and you can get to this next right-hand side, which is the school app, and that's the one-way alert. And then you can toggle it over to the right, which is the rooms alert. So it's a convenient one-stop solution for communication for families. Now that the system is fully deployed, we anticipate weekly teacher-parent updates to include highlights of the week, important announcements, and any other noteworthy achievements. And again, some of the room's technical system integration, we rolled it out for stakeholders, onboarding and training, and there was a lot of little issues helping families download the app, update their systems, find where exactly to do this. So up in the corner, we have pasted on our district website, all of the information, all inclusive to help families through this new system. The app is continuously being developed, but through that process with the engineers, we have to wait in line in a waiting room because we own the app. So anytime there's a fix or there's an update to an operating system, we stand in line in the App Store and the Google Play Store, which then they approve it and they publish it for download. Future enhancements we are hoping to achieve includes the overall navigational improvements, embedded images. Currently they're thumbnails. We're looking for a streamlined approach so that you can just drag through and look at full-size images during communication. And then the parent acknowledgement, teachers and parents alike, like that social networking feel when you post an announcement. It's nice to have feedback like you liked it, like on Facebook. So they're working on that type of communication and enhancements. So at the end of this year, we will evaluate the product. And we will do that with families, teachers, and administration to see if this is our tool or something else, how did it work, where our trouble areas were, and then decide if we move forward with it. I'd also like to say that everything I just talked about, they were all purchased with ESSER funding, so it wasn't part of the general fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we'll hear from our Human Resource Director, Bill Nicky. And Bill is new as entering our system, so he'll give us some fresh perspective from his purview.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I am relatively new, coming up on my 2-month anniversary. And I just have to say before going any further that it's going smoothly, I think, and I have been beneficiary of a lot of quality work that Misty did in the transition from our previous HR coordinator to my starting. That was at least like a 3-month period, I think, where Misty became sort of an HR expert very quickly. And she's been a great teacher, and I've learned a tremendous amount in a very short period of time. While I have a lot of HR experience, I have no real experience in public school system. And so a lot of what I'm doing right now is going up a pretty steep learning curve from that perspective. I do appreciate everyone's support and patience, especially from the administrative team who are some of my key clients. So what have I seen? And I mentioned this the first time I had an opportunity to address the board. The volume and complexity of transactions is pretty significant. That was my observation after about 2 or 3 weeks in, and I haven't changed my perspective on that. Which is good. It's vibrant. It keeps me in touch with folks. I look at every HR transaction as an opportunity to build a relationship with someone. And I've had plenty of those opportunities and look forward to more of them. So, but we do have a lot, compounded by the fact that the data that we get from those transactions needs to go into multiple HR data management applications. There are many. They don't talk to each other. And so a lot of time is spent clicking and entering data that is produced by employees, by filling out forms, which is necessary, but it does take a lot of time. It's super labor intensive. And then affects response time to get back to employees when they are coming to HR for questions and in search of information. Contracts is a good example of that. We're a bit behind on contracts. But we'll be making progress shortly. Another challenge I think that I've seen from a historical perspective, as well as up close and personal, are compensation related recruiting issues with support staff. When I first started, one of the drawers that I went through had a ton of application information that looked like we had gotten to a point with someone and they had turned down our offer very late in the process. And part of that is because we got to that conversation late in the process. So there's an opportunity there. I had that happen a couple of times to me already in the short period of time that I've been here. We do have issues in terms of being competitive at the lower ends of our pay scale, our pay structure for support staff. And so we have difficulty in recruiting more experienced support staff professionals. Opportunities, obviously, the most significant one, you can see that is the development and deployment and implementation of an HR information system, which is, I think, desperately needed. And also taking advantage of what those systems these days can provide, which is opportunities for employee self-service. We should be able to send a potential employee a link very early in the onboarding process that will allow them to provide us information that would go into our system. That right now, we have to grab that information from a variety of sources in order to upload it ourselves. So there are plenty of tools out there that would improve that particular situation. I think we have an opportunity to streamline the recruiting process. For a number of the positions that we've recruited over the course of the last month or two, we've taken the opportunity to be more upfront about what our pay structure is and what kind of range we can offer someone. We've had some people say, nope, not interested at that level, but at least we haven't gone through the process, taken all the time to go through the recruiting effort. And we've also had some folks who have who joined us recently. We hired a couple of per diem substitute teachers, and we hired a pair that just started today, I think, at Walpole. I'll put a plug in for the after school program. So we have an opportunity for folks to participate in our after school program. We have staff openings at Charlestown and Walpole attendance areas. And these are opportunities where staff can get involved in supporting after school efforts around things like crafts and homework, other after school activities. We're looking for a couple of people in each one of those attendance areas. It's about an hour a day, hour to an hour and a half a day, so roughly 5 hours a week. And that opportunity, as well as all of our other open positions, are posted on our website. So I think we have an opportunity in the future to improve our service. and develop some cost efficiencies. Dr. Spence has talked, I think, in the past about engaging in a long-term strategic planning process. There's got to be an HR component to that I think is important, that where we'll look at our talent acquisition strategy, a look at retention, as well as compensation and benefits. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. I would just acknowledge that my information I'm providing right now is largely anecdotal, and in the future, you'll see more data-driven information from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now continuing, we'll pass it off to business office.
What it is.
And Laura will speak to just her labor coming in the system in 6 months. Provide this update.
As you can see, I manage, multiple departments within the district, the facilities, transportation, food service, and then, certainly not least is the finance office. When I came, to the district, I was all ready to, become acquainted with the trial balance and hit the road running and get that, year end closed so we could do the DOE 25. Because as we all know, that is a critical piece to towns and the school districts. And what I found was that I needed to complete the 2022 financial audit. Over the course of probably the first 2 or 3 months, we received notifications that there were various grant monitorings that needed to be completed. So I've been working with, Cheryl was able to help me before she left with some of the ESSER pieces. The financial pieces of information had been provided to the state. It was additional documentation for other components, very specific to the grants and our procedures and compliance with grant management that needed to be addressed. So we've been working on trying to find historical data to be able to respond to this. The state has been wonderful in working with us, and I keep referring to us because Kristen has been instrumental in working on addressing the Title II and some of the Title I pieces. So the state has been really wonderful in working with us, but it has been time intensive. At the end of last school year, there was a medical leave in the office in the high school that had a significant impact on their ability to complete some reporting and to enter data. So we did a little scavenger hunt to try to find the data and get it all entered in so we could close year end of that. We weren't able to resolve all of that before the individual came back at the beginning of the school year. So that carried into August and contributed towards, the delay for completing the DOE 25. Cheryl, who was our grant, our federal finance bookkeeper person, before she left, she was putting in a lot of time to complete the CAPE reports. And those are enrollment reports for the CTE. So that's critical data that, of course, the state needs, and there's a timeline. Then, I don't know, a couple weeks before Christmas, I received notification that we had another report that hadn't been completed from January of 2023. I met with the state and we worked on trying to resolve that. One of my predecessors had applied for a FEMA fund, but didn't send through an application. So we didn't have an approved project, but because we had applied and it submitted initial information, we had to go through the process of closing that out. It's simple, but just the notification that was out there, and it just sidetracks you from the project that you're involved in. I had to update the annual contract before I could complete with Abby
Service, which is our food service company, before we could move forward with our application for the school year. It's important to note that typically, we run a seamless summer option, which is a component of our NSLP, our National School Lunch Program application. And so what that means is that you need to complete the application before your school year ends. So you have everything in place to be able to fund your summer programming for the next year. I started on July 17th, which I believe was a week after summer school began. These things weren't completed, so I needed to come up with another source of funding the lunch programming for the summer, which we were able to tap into ESSER money, thank goodness. But so we had to get all of that taken care of so we could start the school year. That's really how I spent the better part of my first, well into September. At which point I had an opportunity to try to close so we could start working on, the DOE 25. During this time, my staff was very dedicated, my payroll clerk and my accounts payable clerk. The accounts payable position had been vacant for a couple of months prior to the end of the year, and we were working with somebody new. So we had several new people, no documented systems to move forward. As you well know, I've been very involved in, getting the DOE 25 closed and trying to keep up with the budget season. All of that was delayed substantially. I'm really looking forward to getting past this because then I can move forward. I've seen things within the system that we need to improve, and we need to work on documenting our procedures. Part of our problem is we didn't have any redundancy in cross-training. We are working on that. I had a finance manager that started mid-October. And she's, been very helpful in spearheading the audit and working with our staff to set a schedule for cross-training. So that's the business office. As far as facilities go, we have 3 vacant custodian positions. We have 1 vacancy in maintenance. We have a painter position as well that was that we've been working with. So that's a vacancy. We had significant asbestos abatement in the Charlestown Primary School this summer. And then we also abated the nurse's office in Vilas. We remodeled the Vilas kitchen over the summer, and we're in the process of installing new doors and safety locks in the Walpole buildings that we were able to get to that over Christmas break. Within transportation, we're short 2 regular route drivers and 1 backup driver. We are working without a secretary or a dispatcher. That position is still open. That position has historically also provided backup driving. So Art's been putting in long days consistently since the beginning of the school year. And our routes currently are averaging over an hour, with the longest ride being approximately an hour and 23 minutes. We have looked at using and tried to use our software to optimize the routes. And what we find is that we can do that as far as bodies. We can put more bodies on our buses. It increases the length of the routes because of our geographic territory. So Art's been working on managing that. I know that there was some other question over the weekend. I saw about efficiencies and cost per student, and we can get into that. I just want to remind everybody that our bylaws, the state requires that we supply transportation for K through 8, and our bylaws and our articles of agreement require us to extend that through grades 12. So what that really means is that we need to manage and plan on being able to transport all of those kids. They don't necessarily all ride, but some of them might ride 2 days a week or 3 days a week, or it varies. And so we have to build in that capacity when we're building our routes. So I think Art's done a pretty good job with managing that. Food services, another thing that I wasn't anticipating was that I needed to roll over all of the data for food services, along with, syncing it with our, school, our Power School, our student information system. And then we, have completed the fresh fruits and vegetable application. We've had an issue in Ackworth. We had a, health, inspection finding, and we needed to put some sort of warming mechanism into Ackworth to be able to serve hot meals. I just received approval from the state this morning, so we have ordered the oven so we can, it's a convection oven because we can't put in a the venting that is otherwise required. Fire marshal had asked us to remove the oven a few years ago, so that's my understanding. So anyway, so we are making progress on that. So in the meantime, I believe that, there's been something in place to try to get some more meals to students. We have an upcoming administrative review. We haven't had a review for, I don't know, well, since before COVID. So we're due. So, I did ask them to wait until after the beginning of the year. I think it's next week. I need to double check. But we had to provide, supply a lot of paperwork in advance. We also have a grant monitoring review that's coming up, in March. Again, the state was, very kind and worked with me and deferred it until later in the year. So I think that pretty much sums up what I've been up to.
Thank you very much. And again, I believe it's very important for us as a district to tell our story as we are looking to innovate and transform our district. November 13th provided.
There's an ambulance.
Show the emergency vehicle out there.
Is there a basketball game going on?
Don't know. Is that what it is? I thought it was a school bus. Is it actually a?
It's a
ambulance?
rescue.
Oh,
Looked like a rescue vehicle to me.
okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Emmons is on.
It's a
Thank you very
basketball
much.
game. They're very cool.
So to recapitulate, November 13th, we had the structural audit, and this work is building on what it is that was documented and seen at that point in history, and that point in time. And as we're working to innovate, we will have to be strategic and really apply conceptual thinking to the system to think about how we're going to overcome some of our challenges. We're now going to transition to talk about something that I had referenced earlier, which was the lesson plan review. Upon entering the system, I identified an absence of a curriculum. And as I stated previously, at a minimum, a district must know what it is that is being taught and how it is being taught in order to move student achievement forward. In the absence of that, you cannot control for student achievement or understand what is the cause of achievement or lack thereof. It becomes that much more difficult. So in October, I asked, and to which I've had great support from our teachers union and our teachers, to submit the lesson plans that they were using to help guide instruction. We asked that it be open-ended. We asked that they submit what it is that they in fact use, so that we can get a broad understanding as to what the lesson plans are in our district and what is being taught across content areas. So we looked at our critical content areas, math and ELA, to really do a deep dive from the first trimester, what was being taught, to see are there any disparities across attendance areas, which may account for the degree to which students may or may not be prepared as they enter the high school. So I'm going to ask now that my directors of special education and curriculum instruction come up to talk a little bit about their findings. Thank you.
So from this table, you can see that we've specifically decided not to identify attendance areas. And the reason for that is because we really wanted to give you a perspective of what's happening across the district. And so we looked at the Common Core state standards for grade 8. And so down the left-hand side, you'll see each of the Common Core state standards and what they represented in a broad strand. And then, from each attendance area, how many standards were addressed within the, lesson plans that we reviewed. Now, you have to remember that we collected lesson plans starting at the beginning of October and ran through the end of the trimester, which was basically right before Thanksgiving. So we're not talking about a large period of time there. Okay, we've only gone through the first trimester, so not all of these standards. If we were to continue to give you this table over the course of the year, you would see that these standards would be filled in over the course of time. So in one of the attendance areas for reading literature, that was hit very hard, but not in the other two attendance areas, whereas reading informational text was hit harder in another in the attendance area. But production, research, and range was hit harder in two attendance areas versus one of the attendance areas. Anything to add? No. Okay, in grade 4, we focused on math, and two of the foundational standards in math is numbers and operations in base 10 and operations and algebraic thinking. We have math and focus as a standardized curriculum across the district that is different than what we have in middle school for ELA. There's no standardized curriculum for ELA. That's okay. Got excited. So, although the math and focus curriculum is over 10 years old, we do see a strong perspective of those two strands being taught across the district. However, the pace of how those are being taught is different across the attendance areas. So you can see that one attendance area is getting into measurement and data, and another attendance area is falling further behind on operations and algebraic thinking. You can also see on the bottom, although you can't really see it because it's behind the screen for me, is the math practices. Two of our attendance areas are hitting 8 out of 8 math practices, and one is hitting 6 out of 8. Do you want to add anything?
No, you did a great job. We can transition. And so after looking at collecting the lesson plan data to find out what from a content standpoint was being taught, we did a district walkthrough to collect data about our instructional practices. So the curriculum, think about it as a vehicle for instruction that provides what lessons, it's the content of it. The instructional practice is how that content is delivered. So what we did is we constructed a tool in collaboration with our IT department to identify aspects of good teaching and instructional practices that we could see when we walked into the classroom. We documented that frequency, the frequency to which we observed these instructional practices, such as differentiation, we'll talk about that a little bit, co-teaching, rigorous questioning, and that type of phenomenon within the classroom. And we went across attendance areas. After documenting that process, we then mined the data and really identified the trends and themes that we saw based on the instructional practices, and then paired that data with the recent student achievement data to see if there was any correlations. This is another bare minimum basic function that an SAU, a school district, must do to create instructional priorities. Every year, a school district should have instructional priorities that say this is what the school district is going to focus on to move instruction. The supports and the budget supports those initiatives, and it blends together, and it should be woven together and tightly braided. So, please go to the next slide. So, Xander and Tristan are going to talk about the findings, and then we'll have some recommendations.
So, you're right.
That's not you.
Oh, that was me? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'll touch it. So, one of the first, areas that we looked at was evidence of student learning. And so the look fors that we were looking for when we were in the classroom were students actually engaged in the instructional activity that was happening in the classroom? But it wasn't the only thing that we looked for. We also looked for, was there evidence of student learning posted in the classroom? Was it posted in the hallways? So those are all of the things that we're looking for, and this was an obvious area of celebration for us, because it was very clear to us that students were engaged. They were interested in the things that they were learning. You can see that at the elementary level, we had 95.3% of all of the classrooms that we were in, there was obvious, evidence of student learning. The middle school, 90%, and then at the high school, 84.8%.
Before I go to the next slide, so we'll talk about the next one, I just want to say that how impressive I was. We went to all the classes across the district. Everybody was so welcoming, the students were so well behaved, staff were engaged. It was just very impressive, because again, we were collecting baseline data and nobody knew what we were collecting. We were just coming in to observe. It's not like we talked to people ahead of time and said, we're looking for this, we're looking for that. So it was really nice to see just the openness, and many times people asked us to stay longer. We couldn't, because we needed to hit all the classrooms. It would have been great to stay longer in many people's classrooms. So I just want to say that as we move forward, I was very impressed.
Well, let me add to that. I was one item on the back end before the other slide, but we have, within the ranks, we have a very, very strong teaching staff that are very dedicated. Each one of my presentations at the school board, I've tried my best to highlight some of the good things that are happening within our classrooms. So again, we have to develop instructional priorities, because we have to do something in order to innovate and educate our children. And so a lot of that time, it's really us from a 30,000-foot view, looking at the ranks, what's happening, and saying, okay, we just got to redirect our attention and our labor and meander, and the system needs to be malleable in that way. This is why it ties into Lynn's presentation, because having that data allows me, as I'm steering the ship, to then meander my focus and then articulate that to the school board and budget committee as to why we need to meander and shift in various ways. So I want to, thank the teachers union for meeting with us. They met with, the administration. We reviewed this data with them. They asked tough questions. We talked about it, and they all have been one of the most welcoming groups and one of the fairest unions that I have ever worked with in my career. And I think that they deserve an applause for the work that they're doing. And I thank them for being partners in this work as well. So we can talk to them.
So the areas I'm looking at when we go in, one was differentiating instruction. So this is like scaffolding, graphic organizers, providing choices. And when we look at the data here, you can see that at grades pre-K through 4, it's about 21% of what we were observing. 30% of the classes were doing this, 14% at the middle school, and about 4% at the high school level. And again, this is baseline data. This is something we're looking at, so we know where to move forward, what we need to focus on for professional development, instructional practices. The other area we're looking at too is co-teaching, and we used a broad brush on this one to say it could be co-teaching with a general education teacher and a special education teacher. It could be a paraprofessional. They're engaged in the process. And again, looking at this, we had about 13% pre-K through 4, 16 at middle school, and about 2% at the high school level. And again, this is just a moment in time, but it gives us an opportunity to know what we need to look at and where we need to move forward for some of the professional development where we're headed.
And this data will be used to inform our instructional priorities. Now, for some people may say, well, how can this be? And I'll tell you how. Not every pre-service teaching institution prioritizes the same thing. It's like going to school for anything. If you come out of Yale School, they have a philosophy of how things should be done. The Wharton School of Business has a philosophy of how they think things should be done. University of Buffalo has a philosophy of how things should be done. And so a broader issue in education is that systems end up doing the work that should have been done in pre-service because students may or may not have been exposed to that. We also have a great degree of teachers that are coming in that were not traditionally trained as teachers. We also have people that may have been paraprofessionals that did not go through that traditional training that have now elevated to the ranks because they found the true joy for the profession. And we thank them for the service, but from a management perspective, the district must provide the adequate supports necessary to help the staff grow, but also to help support student learning. Taking us back to the November 13th presentation that I presented to the Board and Budget Committee, one of the recommendations from the staff was about how we deal with special education. And teachers noted that they did not feel like they had the adequate supports. So that's something that we can control from the SAU's office, central office, and we'll be looking to use this as a baseline data to again establish our district priorities. With a heightened degree of students that receive special education services, we know that in order to innovate and grow our students, we have to differentiate. that means the gifted and talented student that's right above here that's performing up the charts. But so too doesn't mean a student that struggles. And we have to, as a system, really do a deep dive and think critically, how are we doing that? And this aligns with some of our initiatives that we're talking about from a professional development standpoint, so.
The last area that we're gonna talk about is the evidence of rigorous questioning that we saw. So this was the actual depth of knowledge that the teachers or the students were actually asking each other of. So were they asking just typical recall questions, or were they asking questions where they were asked to apply the information that they were actually being learned? In the last 3 slides, you saw that those were much lower percentages than the first slide, but these 3 slides really asked us to dig a little bit deeper and created broader questions that we wanted to dig a little bit deeper into.
And that's the other part of this was that some of the work here, we just left with broader questions. So broader questions is, around any particular topic, things that we know that we need to investigate and monitor and collect more data on. So this is a process that, we will, repeat and continue as we're monitoring the system and looking to grow our students. But now we're going to talk about our accountability data, and I had noted previously that we, previous meetings that we moved closer to the state average and exceeded the state average. So the system is moving in the right direction. The ship is turned around, going in the right direction. That just speaks to our administrators and the teaching staff that we have within the ranks. So it's another celebratory moment for Fall Mountain. But now we're going to talk a little bit more about the characteristics of the data that we are seeing.
So the first slide here is looking at our 2023 ELA proficiency subgroups. So there's a New Hampshire target where the state wants us to be 64.4% is our goal. Fall Mountain as a whole for all the students is at 51%, so we're not there. Now I'll let you know now that the state average is not at 64 either. That's the target range, and we'll show you on another slide where we're really at. One of the areas two of the areas I'm really concerned about though are the economically disadvantaged. We're at 42%, and then when you look at the students with disabilities, we're at 18%. When you look at that disparity between just the students with disabilities and to Fall Mountain, that's large. When you look at the disparity between the students with disabilities and where we need to be for the targets, it's tremendous. So it's definitely an area that we need to look at. It's an area of concern, and it's an area that we're going to pay close attention to.
So I want you to think about the 64.4% target. That's the proficiency level that the state is shooting for. So this graph is showing you where Fall Mountain is, but then where at each grade level the state average was. So for grade 3, you can see that we were at 43% proficiency for all of our 3rd graders, but the state was at 46%. But they want us to be higher than that. So you can see that at each one of the different grade levels where we were as compared to the state. So specifically at grade 5 and grade 6 and grade 7, and grade 8, we were either at the state average or equal to the state average or above the state average, but nowhere near the target. And the target is what we're shooting for.
The next thing we look at is math. So again, this is math proficiency. The New Hampshire's target is 51.1%. For Fall Mountain, we're at 36%. Economically disadvantaged, we're at 26%. And then students with disabilities is not on the chart because it's either 10% or less. And I don't know if that's 9.9% or if that's like 1%. I don't know. But anything below 10% is not reported. So again, we take that into account. And when I look at where we need to be as a district, and where we need to be for the state target, we're not where we should be. So it's definitely an area that has opened up broader questions for us and just look at this disparity.
So again, keep in mind that 51.1%. Again, you can see where we are for grade 3 and grade 4. So we're at, the state is at 52%, so they've met that target. At grade 4, they're just shy of that target. And then in grade 5, you can see that dips down. We did take a look at the data over the last 3 years. And we noticed that not only does the state take a large decline in grade 5, but so does Fall Mountain. And then grade 11 is the same thing. So those are 2 different grade levels that we'll be looking at in particular over the next year.
How does the state define proficiency?
I'm sorry,
How does the state define proficiency?
whether or not they've scored a level 3 or a level 4 on the New Hampshire State Assessment.
What would a level 3 be?
So it depends on the grade level. and what those proficiencies are. I can meet with you and go over that information.
Do you have any data to say what the top performing schools in New Hampshire is?
Yes, that's available on our platform.
Curious to see how we measure against other school districts.
That information is also provided on the cost per pupil sheet that Steve provided. We provided an additional sheet that
Yeah.
details how we measure from an academic standpoint.
Yeah, we
It's
did
not
look
on
at
this document, but it's been shared with the budget committee and the school board in reference in previous board meetings.
Thank you.
And then the next area is science. New Hampshire does not set a target for science for Fall Mountain. We have 40%, economically disadvantaged 29%, and students with disabilities 13%. And again, when we look at some of these areas, we're just trying to look at the disparity and moving forward.
So, science is only tested at 3 different grade levels, grades 5, 8, and 11. So you can see, that we are under the state average for grade 5. We are above the state average for grade 8 and above the state average for grade 11.
Is there any thought as to why math and English in grade 11 was so low and science is so high?
So, grade 11 students take the school day SAT, as their assessment accountability test, and they take the New Hampshire State Assessment for science.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different test.
Different test.
SATs and each different.
You're right. Yeah. So the next area I looked at was just special education in general, and right now we're still at 20% of our total student population has an IEP. Now, I will tell you the state of New Hampshire is at 19.1%. They've increased over the past few years, so we're really close to where they are. What I wanted to do though also is take a look at our percentages of students with specific learning disabilities. What I noticed is we've got an increase in students who are being identified with specific learning disabilities. So these percentages, like I'll take an example like Ackworth, that's 50% of the students with an IEP are specifically identified with specific learning disabilities. So don't take that as 50% of Ackworth as a learning disability. But when you go down through the chart level, it really stands out. If you look at Charlestown Middle School, it's 61% of the students with an IEP are specific learning disability. So it's really important for us to know. Same thing with the bottom one is Violet's Middle School. It's 53% of the students with an IEP have a specific learning disability. And then what I did is I went ahead and looked at all of those IEPs and looked at the percentages of what they're working on for their goals, and 77% have reading goals. 51% have math goals and 44% have writing goals. So it's important for my standpoint, for special education to get a handle on this, because when we talk about what's going on in the general education classroom and curriculum, this directly impacts what's going on with our special education students, and that we're seeing more students with reading, math, and writing disabilities. I did put in here that this year I've initiated an initiative where we're doing more cushion services, so we're having students more in the general education classrooms, and then doing in addition to that, some pull out, and then some individualized services. Best practices is, this is really the way we should be doing it. It's been a change, and it's preparing them for as they move into high school also, because you have that model. So, and that's just something I said there. Any questions on that piece?
I do. Yeah. Could you go back one slide?
Absolutely.
And if you already gave this to us, Sandra, I apologize, because I know we've gotten, the budget committee and the board have gotten tons of information at this point. So I'd be interested to know, and I understand that we have to be very careful with the data that we share.
Right.
I'd be interested to know. I'm trying to formulate the question, what the percentage of children within, like, so at the Ackworth School, if there's 100 children, what's the percent of children with IEPs?
Sure.
So like that 50%, that 50% of the children with the IEPs have specific diagnoses.
Probably like 17%.
Okay.
That's
I think, yeah, so I think that would be interesting, just an interesting additional call, and just to have the
Sure.
data on.
Yeah, and I definitely can show you, I keep track of that,
Yeah.
like periodically through the year, I do it at the beginning, and then I do it again. So I can definitely pull that, just taking no time to pull it together for everybody. in the
Yeah,
school.
yeah, no rush, I'm just interested.
Yeah. I
What's
can do that.
the disability of the other 50%?
In Ackworth, speech and
Well,
language, well, it just happens to be speech and language, I happen to know this one. In Ackworth, 50% specific learning disabilities, 50% speech and language impairment. The schools vary, so some schools have like, might be emotional disturbance, other health impairment, they have more variability, and that has to do with population size.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I was shocked when I saw 20%.
Mhm.
you mentioned 20% before,
Mhm.
other previous meeting. I was pretty shocked to hear that.
We ebb and flow between 21 and 22 down to
Yeah.
20, just depends on when you ask me, that's kind of where we're at.
Do you have an indication what the root cause of the uptick in disabilities is?
National, like in our district or just in general?
And in general and in our district?
Well, there's a stronger initiative now to do screenings for reading disabilities in general, reading disabilities, so that's part of it, that's why there's an uptick in this. We're seeing more students coming to us with more global developmental disabilities. I could get into whole society, we could have a long discussion on that. There's like societal issues going on, and there's parenting issues, a lot more children are being raised by grandparents or extended family members. Housing instability, right, and get into that, so there's a whole bunch of factors coming into play at once, so. Yeah. Any other questions on this?
And so this brings us to our last slide, but I will say this, based on what I've been able to glean from being in the schools, observing the instruction, working with our directors and really evaluating the full income structure. It's timely and necessary to identify and secure a curricula, particularly in our core content areas. What we have here is a proposed plan, and we also understand it's important to note that we have ESSER funds remaining, which were designed for one-time expenditures. Steve can appreciate that, one-time expenditures, so those are there, and we intend to use the funds to secure that unless I've been directed otherwise by the board. But if not, we intend to use those funds to purchase curricula so that we can support student achievement. Kristen will talk about the plan of action to do that.
So, I've just outlined the 6 different phases that I added here. I have a more extensive, timeline that has more details in it that, Dr. Spence can share with you. But these are the different phases. So phase 1 would be establishing the leadership team involvement. That's a conversation that the administrative team has already had. We would identify or have already identified a principal that would co-lead, each curriculum committee with me. And that way, if one of us couldn't be at that meeting, that work could continue. We would establish the review committees. I've already sent emails to building principals looking for committee members. So we're hoping that with your permission, we can move forward with that. We would then complete a needs assessment about what needs are that we have in the district for both math and ELA. We would review curriculum materials and resources, so we pull those resources in. After identifying from the needs assessment what we actually need to look for, we would want to make sure that it was obviously aligned to the Common Core state standards, because that's what our state has adopted. And then a decision and purchase, our plan is to have that completed by May, so that we could then have those materials in and then work on our implementation and training plan in June, and then train teachers in August.
And so this is the final slide, and what we hope to achieve here is one, that we can see the ecosystem of how everything is interrelated, but also it speaks to our labor as an administration, what we have been up to since the inception of the superintendent's contract. This is what I believe we need to do and where we need to focus our attention to move our system forward. And if there are, I'll open up questions from the board. If no questions, we can continue with the agenda. And I thank you all for providing us with this time tonight.
I'd like to start just by thanking you for this comprehensive display. I mean, it makes me proud to hear all of our expert administrators here presenting this to us. And I'm glad the budget committee is here to see this as well. It informs what we're doing here. And so thank you all very, very much.
I'd second that. It was very well presented.
They'll appreciate that because I've been driving them crazy. So they will definitely appreciate that very much.
You indicated maybe that you needed a directive from us for the curriculum. Is that something you are actually looking for us to make a motion on tonight?
Yes, if the board will grant us the authority to do our due diligence and secure and purchase a curriculum using the ESSER funds.
Would that, just a quick question, would the
curriculum when it's chosen be presented to the board first, or?
No, so that,
It's not a trick question.
No.
I'm not saying you.
full
are.
transparency for everyone here. Ideally, yes, the funds going November 30th. We are on a short timeline.
Right.
So we don't have as much time to present and go back and forth. We really gotta we really gotta make a decision quickly before the funds are gone.
So moved, I'll make the motion that we empower the superintendent and the leadership team to make a decision on where to take the district as far as curriculum planning and purchase.
I will second that. Oh, we'll fight over it, Joe.
Is there any discussion on it? Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to add before we take a roll? No. Sarah?
Yes.
Is that a yes? Yes. Okay, thanks. This
Joe,
was the
yes.
one.
Jamie, yes.
Jenny, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes. I look forward to finding out what you've discovered and determined and where it's gonna take us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that, Gabe.
If I may, for the budget committee's sake, reference our agenda at this time, where we have the acceptance of the superintendent's report. If we're willing to accept this as the report.
Yeah, absolutely, so moved.
Moved by Amanda, seconded by Chris Spalding. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Michael?
Yes. You heard me?
Yes, Michael, thank you. Ahmed?
Yes.
Steve? Steve?
Sorry.
Teague, yes.
Steve, yes. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, so that brings us to the part in this meeting where our meetings kind of converge. We have a budget discussion. At this point, we do have a budget hearing on Wednesday. It is at 5:30 here are we in the cafeteria? Okay, so for everybody out there, 5:30 in the cafeteria here for the budget hearing. So look forward to seeing you all there. So I'll open it up to you. Does your board have a final number that you would like on the warrant?
We'll open up. Item 3, budget discussion. With the budget committee and we're all together. The school board's welcome to ask questions. And you can have a discussion. I'll note that we are starting off with the administration's grand total proposed, and I may verify this, $34,832,144. That's where we're starting. Steve?
Just a question, do we have an updated tax ramification as related to that number?
We do not.
We do not.
Maybe?
So I just want to take a moment and then I'm gonna make a motion. And you can vote it up or down and then we can go from there. I've taken a lot of time to reflect on the last version that we got of the raw data budget as built. And really went through all of the different numbers and where some of the changes are. And it's no surprise that the bulk of the changes are in wages, right? And we're a service industry. We're heavy in wages. That's what we do. I'm gonna reiterate what I said at our Saturday all day long meeting, that yes, we have a ton of ESSER funded positions that we're now looking at and having to make a decision on. But we did what the feds told us to do with the money if we needed additional supports for our kids, and that's what we did, right or wrong, that's what we did. I'm also gonna reiterate that this district, whether you were on board with it or not, this district voted on warrants for agreements with the support staff and with the teachers union that we knew were gonna add money to these budgets. They weren't gonna go down. Okay? I'm also gonna reiterate that the administration heard us and they went back and they cut a bunch of positions all the way across the district in order to try to self-fund some of those additional positions that they felt were most important for the students and the learning that needed to happen. The last point I'm gonna make, and I may be wrong, but I think I remember what I heard at the last meeting last Thursday. Is that we have some inherent inequities within our structures, right? And we all know that because it was a point of contention last year, and it probably will be a point of contention this year, and it's an area where we as a board, school board, need to do some work on the methods and try to figure that out, right? So that hopefully the district doesn't implode. So I believe Charlestown still gets Title I funding, right? Okay. And some of the other towns don't get Title I funding. And so when Walpole and Alsted come to us and say, we need to have these interventionists still added into our budgets, you know, they don't have the luxury of having any Title I funding in order to try to fund those kinds of additional positions. In looking at some of the scores and all of that, and I know you can't judge kids, you can't judge their educational attainment purely by a test they take once or twice a year. I know that. You can have a bad day. But our test scores, as much as we saw on the board that there are gray areas and we're making strides, we all admit that they're not where we want them to be. So I'm sure this will fly right in the face of convention for most people, for me to say this. But with all of the changes that we've gone through and the fact that we have a brand new administration that has not had the correct amount of time to be able to do deep dives into what they feel the direction should and could be. And knowing that we're coming off of a year and a half, 2 years ago, we didn't have a BA, so those numbers are horrible to try to even understand. Coming off of last year where even Mary had trouble coming off of the prior year because it was nobody here to really do the job. And now Lori's coming in to try to make sense of everything being behind an 8 ball. I'm gonna make the suggestion, and I don't have the figure, you can deduct whatever I'm gonna say. The other part, I'm just gonna say that CPI right now is sitting at, I believe, Northeast Region CPI, depending on what you look at, 3.5 if you take out energy and food. Non-union administration, non-union raises last year were 5%, not across the board, but they were supposed to be around 5%. Some are higher because of market driven. The prior year from that, I think they were at 3.5. And so I'm going to make the motion. If it gets a second, great. If it doesn't, that's all right. I'm gonna make a motion that from the administration's suggested $34,832,144, we engage in, I know people hate this thought, but it's not cutting positions. It's simply vacancy management. We engage in $200,000 of vacancy management. That's purely where you put in a discounted dollar amount into a shared area. You don't cut positions, you discount it. It's kind of like a reversal of a contingency, okay? Do a $200,000 vacancy management. If the budget goes into default, it's our fault, not these folks, right? We gotta manage it. There are funds that can be pulled upon. I don't think it'll happen. And that we drop another $36,000 because that's the difference between a 5% non-union raise and a 4% non-union raise. So cut $236,000 from the board's or the administration's proposed budget as it sits. And see where it shakes out once we know what the surplus monies are for revenue. That's my motion.
Jamie, that would bring her number to 34,598,144.
That's my motion.
Can we have that number again, please?
34,598,144.
We have a motion on the table by Jamie T. for a dollar amount. Can we hear a second? Seconded by Amanda, open for discussion. I'm gonna check in now with both Michael and Ahmed because we don't have you in the room. I'd like to give you first opportunity to speak.
This is Michael. Sorry, I was on mute. I think, Gabe, you had come up with some other numbers, over the weekend, and, so I'm gonna vote no on this.
Okay, it's just for discussion at this point. but-
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you, that's what I'm gonna do.
At this late hour, it's good to be frank. Being no further discussion,
On the way from it.
oh,
Yeah.
Ahmed?
Oh, I've got nothing to say at this time.
I just wanted to get a clarification from Jamie on your motion, the 200,000 portion of it, how would that be apportioned?
It's not up to me, but in discussion with Lori, if she concurred, I think that you should apply a $200,000 discount to the high schools. Because then to the high schools budget, and then it would filter down through by ADM. Because it's the cleanest, easiest way. That's how we deal with surplus.
Good parallel.
Am I allowed to speak or is this just a budget committee?
I think it's a budget
It's
committee
just the
motion.
budget committee right now.
Just the budget committee at this
Well,
point with the motion on the table.
Okay, sorry.
Point of clarification, this is a vote on this motion,
On this motion.
this motion on.
It's a discussion point to decide a number. I would like to, after we have found a majority support for a number, we will take a budget committee up or down vote on that. So this will not indicate, this vote will not indicate support of the finished product, but just the motion that's on the table to move forward with. If there is no majority vote forthcoming, then we'll look to entertain another motion and have more discussion.
Okay, for clarification, if you vote, when we get to the vote, you vote and you say, yes, you are in favor to it, then we have come up with a number. It's not necessarily the final number, but we have come up with a number that you could then add to or have other discussion to. Is that correct?
Oh,
No.
that's the motion. The motion is for that number. Vote it yes or vote it down and then come up with a new number.
Thanks.
That's I'm sorry, Chairperson. That would be my thought. It's my motion
Yep.
for a
And
total
we
number.
wanna honor the spirit of the motion.
Yeah, gotcha.
From my end of it, I wish we would have had this presentation by this administration sooner. Because it gave us more data that we've never had before in the process about outcomes and all the things that were on that presentation. So I think it was an excellent opportunity to see how the district is looking under the current situations and the whole idea of I'm still shocked that 20% of the kids in the school district have IEPs. That's a number that is new to me as a selectman, it was new. So that that's where I want to end it until we vote. Okay.
All the question, please. If you're ready.
The question has been moved. Roll call vote. Michael,
Aaron, no.
Chris,
No.
Jamie,
Yes.
Steve Burrow,
I'm sorry, I still need clarification. We're just voting on the motion to reduce by 240,000, was it? That's it.
236.
Okay, to reduce the budget by that amount. Correct. Then yes.
Steve Delesio,
Yes.
I'll vote yes.
Jordan,
Ahmed,
Abstain.
the motion passes. We have a number with which to move forward with.
So for clarification, is $34,598,144 the number the budget committee is looking to put on the warrant?
It has majority support at this time. We are going to take another vote once that's set in and express our approval or express our opinion on that number.
Yeah, I mean, but at the budget hearing, it may change depending on.
Correct, as
what
it
we
did
hear on the
last
budget
year.
hearing and we did last year.
Your question.
Misty?
So for clarity, is that what the vote that you're referring to, is that the vote that you expect to go on the ballot? As your
At this
position
time.
on that number?
That is the number I expect at this time to move forward with. That vote sets a number, it does not depict at this time every board member's opinion of that number.
No, I'm just talking specifically the budget committee. So this next vote that you're gonna take is what? This is your recommended, and then we're voting around the room on your position for the ballot. Is that what I'm understanding? For now, until the budget hearing. I'm trying to get clarity between what you just voted on and this next number you're referring to.
Right.
This next
and
vote.
I'm trying to process the
Okay.
questions. Jamie?
So I think I'm just gonna jump in.
Please.
I think what Misty's asking about is this the number we're gonna put on the warrant article for tonight?
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Assuming and knowing that at a budget hearing, people can make
Of course.
amendments to
Of
that
course.
number.
Right.
Okay.
Well, yes.
Steve?
So
You
there's not another
Yes.
vote forthcoming.
Tonight I would think for point of order, there isn't, right? You would be able to change that on Wednesday.
Because I thought I was voting
Right.
specifically on your motion to reduce.
That's what I'm trying to get
136,000,
clarity on.
Right.
Not on a final number.
No, you,
Okay.
so you had a final number last year when you went into the budget hearing.
You should
There
have a
was
final
lots of
number.
discussions.
It got changed.
The public had discussions, and then as a budget committee, I think it was you, Jamie.
Yep.
I think it was you who put money back into it, and then you made another vote, and then there was
Correct.
the final number.
Right.
So this is the final number.
Until Wednesday, until after the hearing, is that my understanding?
That's,
It-
it could
whereas-
change at the budget hearing.
It could change at the
I
budget
understand
hearing.
that, yeah,
And we will, and I think this will clarify for Steve Barone. The vote that we just took does not express what will be the thumbs up or thumbs down on the warrant as it's
that was
described.
my question, correct,
But
okay,
it
that
is
was
what
my
we're
question.
supporting going into the hearing.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine, but then I'd like to change my vote to abstain.
Ahmed? You got it? Thank you.
That doesn't change the outcome, all right? What's the final vote?
No. It doesn't change the outcome.
Good, I didn't mean it to. I just.
Okay, so I'm gonna open this up to the school board. Do you have anything you want to discuss about this budget number?
I had a question about vacancy management. My understanding of vacancy management is it's combination of all of the positions that we were unable to fill, like by July first. You know, you'll have somebody usually quits, somebody that you didn't get to hire. But we normally put all that money in the budget. And in this case, we'd take like 25% of it and, or $200,000 of it and just not put it in the budget. And we fill it, we still aggressively go try to hire all of the people by July first. But knowing that the reality is we won't get everybody. That's where that money is coming from.
That is my understanding. Jamie?
So yes, and I think the manner in which we've done it, not here at Fall Mountain, but in other places for people who have embarked on that journey, is, and Lori will do it the manner she sees fit for here. And so you basically, you budget like you would normally budget with the positions in their entirety.
Right.
And then you put a line in that says vacancy management, and it's a negative number in total.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
figuring like if we did have a business administrator that had been here for 20 years or whatever, that number might be a lot clearer. Than it is before Lori just started. But,
You got 20 years in you, right?
Just to note that last year, we removed $150,000 in vacancy management, and we still returned over a $1.2 million surplus back to the voters. And I bet that the vast majority of that money came from unfilled positions.
And positions that were covered in ESSER.
Yeah, or however you got
Can't
there,
discount that.
but it just created a enormous surplus, which is, I realize that voters love it, but it's not good to keep the balance of things. So we should try to avoid that as much as we can going forward.
Listen,
Second
very, oh, sorry.
Second year in a row,
Yeah.
with a one,
Something $1 million surplus.
with COVID
Yeah,
playing a role in that.
yeah.
Very brief text I wrote. Vacancy management is somewhat of a misnomer. It's simply the acknowledgement that over the year, we will be unable to fill some of our positions and that savings will ensue. Staff come and go, so even when we can find replacements, there's nearly almost some in-between time where savings will also occur. So it's not so much that we're managing, it's more of a recognition that it's just occurring.
it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
Just something you wanted to?
I do.
Thank you.
So we do, and Lori has acknowledged that when we removed permanent subs, that we removed, some dollar amounts for subs. So right now, Walpole attendance area, the Alston attendance area, specifically the Alston, the violence schools, CPS and CMS, don't have any money at all for substitutes. I came up with about $97,000 with that, in this report that Lori just gave us. I need to speak to Lori, right?
It did, that includes,
It's $118,178.
some of those positions were, benefited and checked in that full
Yeah,
amount.
right. So it's probably closer to $100,000 because they're not benefited anymore, right? They're all just day. So, that might be part of vacancy management. We might not need to change that number and say that this is part of vacancy management and we can, that money, that's $100,000. It's gonna come out under right there. It's gonna come up in vacancy management. I do think we need to acknowledge the fact that we don't have substitute dollars in that budget. So I'm not sure how to handle that exactly, or what makes the most sense. Whether we leave it in vacancy management or try it. The board takes the position of that we want a different budget.
The board has the ability to determine our own number, and we would put that number on the warrant. It's my understanding it would go on the warrant, but
Goes on the MS form.
It doesn't go on the warrant.
It goes, so according to Matt, it can go in the information section on, like, so the language underneath the board supports. Jamie?
No, finish
Okay.
after you're done.
The budget committee's vote is X, the school board's vote is X, and then within that language, you can include what the school board recommends. So it doesn't go in the body, in the article for a vote, but it's put in that.
Did we
put
do
in
that
line
last
so
year?
that the public is aware.
It's a point of transparency.
Correct.
Because we agreed last year, it was understood that it was our budget as
So
well.
it's an explanatory note underneath
That's correct.
the prescribed by law text of Article 1.
Yep.
Yeah, which only has 2 blanks in it, not 3.
Jamie?
So my only additional comment was gonna be that if the board doesn't agree with the budget committee's number for the general budget, the board can put a subsidiary warrant article up with an additional amount of money, explaining what it's for.
And so in that case, would it leave, if the
They would
voters
still-
pass number 1 and then they would pass number 2 or not pass number 2?
Correct.
If they pass them both, then the higher,
added
they get
together.
added together.
Budget committee would have nothing to do with number 2.
Well, you'd still tender
We tender an opinion as we do on all warrant
Yeah.
articles.
Right.
But
All
it's
money
your,
articles.
it's your article, and you put anything you want in it.
Shelley?
Considering some of the discussions and some of the surplus that we've given back. And to constantly look under open positions, and they're a lot throughout the district, throughout the year. I'm hopeful with the new HR person, with things like that, that a lot of those positions will be filled. However, everybody is struggling right now. New Hampshire is at 2.2% or 2.4% unemployment. Charlestown's at 2.2. I'm not sure what Langdon is or this area, but it has to be below 3, which is unheard of. So given that, and given the fact that last year, the budget committee also lowered the budget by that much, considering that they're not touching or not recommending any cuts, that this is just about vacancies, then I wouldn't see why this board wouldn't support moving forward their $236,000 cut. So I think it's important that we come together and find a number, and I understand that we can come up with a different number. But I also think it's important moving forward with the public and the voters to work together on this, so.
I just want to say I've seen the process this year, just from sitting at the budget committee meetings and hearing the conversations, and it never fails to impress on me the brains we have sitting around the table and the conversation that comes out of it and the questions that get asked. So I am inclined to agree, knowing that we have the experts who come.
I was gonna say one more thing, I'm gonna really shut up.
I like when you have things to say.
No, you know, and carrying forward a budget with this much of an increase, that's a big increase, and I get it, It is a large increase. I really think that within a year's time, with all the work that they're doing and the fact that Dr. Spence wants to tie this to strategic planning, and so that the dollar amounts, are tied to specific purposes, and they really get a handle on managing the budget, that we won't be looking at large increases like this year over year over year, if we can just maintain some continuity. And also I would encourage, the folks in Langdon and the folks in Ackworth and, the folks. Charlestown took a really, hard look at what was going on and made some really difficult decisions to change. And I know tax rates can be harsh and hard, but in order to get to where you need to be to maintain those kinds of budgets, and you've got 5 or 8 kids in a class, that's not sustainable. It's got to be managed. And so I think with the right leadership, you know, and going back and really taking a hard look at how can we maybe change this? And I get tradition and I get history, historical, you know, I get it. Closing schools is a painful process. You know, it's change, it's radical change. But that's what needs to happen with some of those places.
I'd also like to thank the administration and all the people under Dr. Spence. You have to remember the first budget they came to was 7, 8, 9% increase. The fact that you dwindled it down, and I know that is not an easy thing to do. Lori, I'm looking at you specifically because I can't even imagine what the last month has been like for you. I think it was Christmas Eve, I got an email from you, which is unheard of. But I'm just saying, I think the work that every single administrator, principal, the teachers coming together, really trying to figure this all out for everybody. The work you guys have done has been phenomenal and greatly appreciated. So,
Thank you. I'll just say to echo those sentiments, this isn't a phenomenon that's happening across the country. New York State is closing colleges. There are colleges going out of business in New York State because of enrollment. Collegiate level. I took the liberty to look at some systems across the country and like on the East Coast that are comparable to us. And I'm finding districts of our size, 4 buildings, $28 million operating budget, 32, 42 is the highest, but I'm not seeing anything more than 4 or 3 buildings, and they typically are on one campus. I'm not saying that's just food for thought, that when we do our strategic plan, which I hope to have input from the budget committee as well, is we need to think about our decisions in long-term sustainability over the course of the organization. My fear is that one day we will run out of people to cut from the budget and there will just be buildings. And at some point, we can't kick the can down the road. We have to reconcile the larger elephant in the room, which is what are we gonna do from a fiscally sustainable model? Now, Steve, you and I have some thoughts, and that will be, I hope to have your input on the strategic planning, because there are ways to offset these costs. But that will be the conversation from an operational standpoint. I'll be looking for guidance as to how do we build a sustainable system that will be fair to the taxpayer, but also benefit the children in a way that will allow them to pursue their dreams and go after the American dream.
and that's why we do what Jamie's asking, just cutting from vacancy management. Because I do think Dr. Spence has a vision. He has a road he would like to go down, and I'd like to explore that with him. But I also don't want to cut anybody at the knees. I want to be able to keep doing what we can do right now with what we have and not cut much more from it, because I just think it's going to affect the students at some point if we just keep hacking away at it. So I'm excited about your leadership over the next year. I'm excited about your administration. I think you worked some of them up. I think they're a little excited and a little smiling a little bit more. So that's good. That's all good stuff. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
So do we need to have any more discussion about the budget, or are we good to meet on Wednesday?
I'm good for Wednesday.
Good points.
All right, thank you very much. That was a whole lot less painful than I thought I was gonna be. So, here, 34,598,144.
Will I keep coming up with it?
I think I told everybody 6.
33,541. Right?
What? 34,598, 144.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, yes, I'm looking at different.
34,598.
Wonderful, yes, yep. Everyone's made zero.
Yes.
Yeah, please. I have a question about the concept of the supplementary warrant. If we're explaining on that Jamie and Jerry, I'm sorry. I mean, others might be able to answer to it, but if we're explaining in a supplementary warrant, should the board want something at some point, what that is for, and the public votes no, does that then mean that we cannot enact any of those transactions for how many years?
Just one.
It's just 1 year. Okay, so,
Yeah, it's the no means no.
yeah, that's, I just wanted to make sure that
1
that's
year.
being considered.
But we wouldn't be putting, it would just be a dollar number, correct?
When you do a special warrant article, you have to give it the purpose, because only the
So
general
very
ledger
specific
article,
line.
correct.
Okay,
Only
thank
general
you.
ledger article can be, all encompassing. That's why like, I don't need to expand, but anybody can get 25 signatures and say, we wanna add half of them. So we wanna add $100,000 for an additional teacher. Doesn't mean if it passes that the board has to put the money where somebody thinks it should go. It just has a specific purpose, right?
Means they can't spend it on anything else. though.
Anything else.
But they're not not obligated to spend it in the first place, even though it passed. They just can't repurpose it.
Yeah,
They have to
it's
give it
because
back.
you have to give a specific purpose, because it is considered a specific one.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Does it sound like the board is in line with the budget committee at this point?
That's been my understanding
That's been
from,
the
from this
okay.
discussion.
Just wanted to hear it.
Yes, yes.
The, no. We're waiting.
Did you have something to add
No,
before we move on?
before the warrant.
Missy, what was
Okay.
the final tally on the budget committee's vote? 6-1-1 or 5-2-1?
No, 422.
Yeah.
4-2-2, okay.
All right, with that, let's move on to the potential warrant articles that we'll be looking to talk about. So we have a number for Article 1 at this point for tomorrow. Are we gonna be voting on these right now, or are we just discussing wording?
I think we just need to finalize them. I mean, that's up to you. If you are ready to move forward with them, we can, they haven't been, have you sent them through the area? They haven't been. Let's just talk about them tonight. We
Okay,
can
so
vote on them after.
after a meeting right before Wednesday?
We don't have to vote on them before Wednesday, I don't think.
Okay,
When's the last date we
Okay.
can vote on warrant articles?
You can't vote on them because it doesn't say what we're doing.
Correct. So, we just need to have them ready for the warrant. And you're gonna.
Right, but they don't have to be voted by the hearing date, right?
No.
They have to be voted by the date that everything is posted.
Correct.
Which is-
You're right.
The 29th is
Just
the
that
deadline.
You have to propose your whole warrant Wednesday night or just the? budget?
No,
No.
the
No,
bu-
it's
only the
just the budget.
budget
Just the
on
budget.
Wednesday. It's nice if you can
We
do
should
the
have
whole.
everything done and tidy by
It
the
would be
22nd
nice.
meeting.
It's
Yeah,
the what?
by the 22nd.
Okay, I think,
Yeah,
I thought it was.
I'd
a
like to
third
have
week.
everything
The obligation is only.
ready to
during
post.
the budget.
Yes,
Okay.
So
Right.
the warrant it's basically a warrant review we're doing.
Correct.
This
To make
is-
sure this is what we want to move forward.
I'm
We
good.
talked about it the last meeting and I just want to finalize what we talked
It
about
looks
to make
good.
sure everybody's good.
Great.
Thanks, Jill.
So, well, Article 10 should say to amend Article 3, not Article 18.
Hold on one second. Let me get there, okay?
right.
Okay, so Article 10.
Should say
That's
to
right.
amend
Yeah.
Article
I moved
3.
them around. Yeah.
I thought Matt,
Oh,
right?
no. Is that okay?
Nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. His advice was that we did not move forward with this change, although there was still some, do you have more information?
Which one is that?
I'm moving forward with these two.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not what I was
Matt,
talking.
Matt gave us the language for these, for Article 10 and 11. And this is what he recommended we move forward with, this language.
So he did change his, because his advice during that meeting we had was not to change Article 3. But it sounds like yeah, he's changed his mind, which is fine.
Did you remember?
I think it was more that we didn't need to have all this language.
Just pare it down.
Um,
Can we consult him by Wednesday?
He's gonna be there Wednesday.
Oh, well, we can just ask.
Yeah, I'll double check with him.
Okay, because I thought it was, he said we didn't need that, but I also brought up the fact, what happens if that there was some conflicts there and maybe he changed his mind. I think the voters will have problems with us deleting the sentence about another grade from one town to another. Meetings will be held by the school board, the town concerned with the transfer. I think voters will have trouble with that part being removed.
Well, it's in article, it's in number 18, the same language. So I think that's why he had,
Well, the meeting,
I think the voters will. I think after last year, I think we need to give the voters a little bit more confidence, because I think a lot of people said last year they wouldn't understand. And I think when we presented it at the deliberative, didn't we leave? We left it all in, but just crossed out what we were taking out, right? So if anybody had any specific questions, then the old written language was there along with what we're doing new.
right,
So it
this-
shows
it would
the
go
process.
just like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that they could see what we
The
were.
whole process, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have any suggestions for changes, so. And we gotta do what it is.
Mine's not with regard to that one.
oh, which one do you have?
So I would, ask the board to consider perhaps removing Article 8 and allowing surplus from this next year to flow back to the against assessment.
I second that.
Anybody have any discussion about that?
Because if we're correct, if what you're saying, if what I'm seeing is correct, is that current capital reserve has $858,727.05.
Right.
But, is that including the deposit that needed to be?
That includes the deposit. So it'll be
Right.
sitting at 860,000, which based on our numbers, when oil was high and it's come way down, was at like 1 million maybe, and we're gonna get a survey. So we're not gonna need the money for a whole nother year. I think if we're staring at such a large budget increase that we're hoping will pass, that we should let it flow back.
I am inclined to agree always with that.
Do we need the motion for it, or are we just doing consensus?
I think it's just consensus. This is just a review, so if we don't want it, we'll just take it. It's not out there anywhere. It's just for you to discuss. So we can just remove it.
So I'll take a quick poll. Sarah, how do you feel on that?
Sorry, I was muted. You didn't hear my meh. Yeah, I'm back and forth. Not sure.
Shelley, you're a yes.
In favor.
Joe, how do you feel?
I think I'd be in favor of that.
You know I am, I suggested.
Jenny, how do you feel?
I think it needs to be a give and take, and I think it shows effort on our part to kind of
Give and take.
compromise a little bit. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm inclined to look at that.
Thank you. Kevin, do you have a feeling?
I'm also on the fence, because I think looking forward to some, trying to get rid of all the asbestos abatement, do that kind of one fell swoop, but we don't have the money to do that, we can't do that. I'm also, understand the other,
I'm inclined to believe that the Violet School is completely built out of
But
asbestos.
this is for the high school. fund.
Only for high school funds.
This is the
Well,
high
Article
school.
8 says.
No, this is not just
250
high school
High
funds.
school and 250, no, it's
No,
just,
it's high
it's just high
school.
school,
This-
okay.
Article 8 is.
Has nothing to do with the town.
Well,
no, that's not true.
It's,
at the very bottom, it does talk about changing
that's what we
it.
changed it to, is 500. I wasn't sure, but I didn't change it because I didn't have all the formulas. You know how we do the
Right.
percentages
So
down
So
by.
it's not meant to be 250 for the high school?
No, the board decided 500.
Okay, well, I
250 would
didn't know,
go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We changed it to 500, 250 to be proportioned out to the.
To the 5 sounds and.
And then 250 to 5.
So kind of the original way the,
It used to
Used to
be.
be, that's right.
so half to the high school, the other half is split via ADM. to the
So
community.
I'm fine with the 250 going to the other towns. I do not want the 250 going into the high school reserves.
I would amend my motion to
Thank
be
you.
that way.
Okay, so this is just, do we want to just make it 250,000
Excuse me.
districts and not do the high?
I'll
school?
mute myself again.
Yes.
Well, you can tell me how you feel about that, just sending, if there's any, do you want to send it
This
back
or
to the
this?
individual town capital reserves? And not the high schools?
Yes, I would like, yes. Yes, that I would be good with.
I'm on board with that.
Okay.
And I still
So we're gonna
contend that the
change
Violet
our
School is
vote
still better. It's
to-
best.
It could be.
If we get rid of it, it might fall apart.
Really.
Are you on the fence still?
Well,
or-
I'm on
But it
board
won't
with
burn
that.
down.
That's
That's
true.
true. It will not burn down.
I'm glad you
Conversations we
pointed that out. I didn't see the 250 to the town. I think the towns still need
Think-
their capital reserves.
Okay.
For that purpose.
Because I think else, one of them was
Alstead's
getting
almost
pretty
zero
low, right?
anyway.
So
And there are.
I just don't. I
Okay,
don't
so
wanna
we're
go
good with that
dump into
change.
the high school.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't know it was supposed to be both, like.
Yeah, I put the little note there, but I just didn't change it because I wasn't
That's
sure
all
what
right,
it was
sorry.
already.
I thought
Okay.
that was the little unit.
So I had it highlighted.
I knew it was highlighted for some very good reason.
Can I ask? a
Yeah.
point?
I didn't explain it, so it's not your fault.
Gabe would like to add something.
Okay, in the interest of the budget committee's time, let's wrap up our agenda and we can adjourn our meeting. Item number 4, request for information. Do we have any requests at this time?
So, the documentation that was handed out had the open positions, it had all of the ESSER reconciliations ticked and tied. There was a default number, and the tax document needs to be completed.
looking for now.
Yes.
The tax document.
The allocation of those corrections, an individual works a third here, a third there, and,
That's the only
that's
document.
yeah, that's-
Tax
yeah.
implication.
No, and I understand that.
I'm sure you.
Very
Hearing on
time
the budget is for the budget committee, correct? Hearing on the budget is for the budget committee to present. Do we know who's presenting it? Are you presenting? You are presenting. Okay, fine.
Well, yeah, Jamie has volunteered that, but I will open the meeting.
I mean, based on our last meeting where nobody felt comfortable doing it, I said I would. And we're doing it at 5:30, right? Because I have a budget hearing at 7 that same day. Okay,
We're in the cafeteria set up same as last year unless you wanna do.
I'm gonna be via Zoom. I hope that's okay.
That is-
Okay.
Brendan will be there.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Sarah is looking to be Zoom as well. I got your.
I'm hoping
Yeah,
someday
don't-
we'll,
You don't want me there. You don't want my germs there.
Jamie and Sarah are both joining via Zoom, but we have a quorum in person in order to move forward with the boards. So we have, yeah, so at least 4 of you need to be.
So nobody else can get sick, we've been told.
Talking about the budget committee.
At least talking about the. No, I'm talking about the board.
Support. But the budget committee needs a forum too.
I work at a school.
And that
Yeah. Okay, so I have one more, are you,
I have a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you have
yeah.
8, yeah,
I realize she's in 2 roles.
I know.
So you won't be there?
I will be on Zoom,
You will be on Zoom.
so I won't count towards quorum by the actual law,
So we need,
but I can participate. by
Absolutely.
so we need 5 of the remaining 7.
You have to have 5 in person in order to hold a meeting, yes.
Okay, seeing no further requests for information, we'll move on to item 5. Is to acknowledge that our next meeting date is Wednesday, January 10th, this coming Wednesday at 5:30. in the cafeteria.
5:30.
The cafeteria right over there.
That's the one.
Just another point of clarification. She'll be able to vote though, right?
Yes,
It's just a quorum that's the issue.
correct.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they,
Yeah, when they
Well, if we
changed
did
the,
do
when
proposed
they
laws-
changed the
They
laws
changed
back,
COVID
yeah,
laws.
you had to
Well,
have,
if we change anything up or down, you'll be able to cast a vote.
I
yes.
can, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, is there anything else to come before the budget committee tonight? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So,
Moved by Amanda, seconded by Steve Celestio. All those in favor, roll call vote. Michael? Not Linda? Ahmed?
Yeah.
Yes, Michael, yeah.
All right, thank you, Michael. Amanda?
yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thanks, we're just adjourning. If you agree.
You're welcome to stay with us if you want.
Jamie?
Thank you.
Yes.
Steve Alessio? Yes. St. Pierre, yes. Thank you for your time.
All right, so let's continue our discussion so we can also get to
Can I
that
ask
later.
a question about Article 11?
Yes.
Yes.
It says in here at the end of the bullet points, closure of any elementary school. Am I safe in assuming that our middle schools are considered elementary schools?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Just means they can't close the high school.
Just can't close the high school.
So just thinking about logistics, if we can plan, I'm gonna warn a quick meeting for right after the budget hearing, so that we can vote on our positions on the articles if that works. Because realizing that all that information needs to get into the DRA and in order for us to be able to sign everything on the 22nd, we should do that after the budget hearing.
You'll need both bodies for that.
Yes, that's correct.
So we'll do it right here. Don't leave.
Yes.
So you'll have to text me to see where I'm at.
Or we can do it, I mean, we could do it in the we can do it in the cafeteria. Just don't, leave. Yeah.
You'll have to text me, because my hearing starts at 7. I might be done by 8, who knows? We could only hope, because the budget discussion was 4 hours, so.
Yeah.
We said it was gonna be going.
We'll do it that way.
I couldn't believe you.
We've got to get to that, but so I have one more question about Article 11. Here it says the cost of such expenditures to be apportioned exclusively to the town where the elementary school is being closed is located. That sentence pertains to all of these other things, I think. It's not just the closures. So if somebody wants to grow,
That's correct.
it's only, so we need to take out the being closed.
Is located, oh, so take out the word closed. In the
Yeah, it
second
should be the
bullet.
town where the elementary school is located.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the last of those.
Yeah, and then we will have actual tasks that all of these capital reserve funds will be used for.
They're usually mentioned in the warrant.
People want to know what they're voting for.
Yeah, no,
So I think Charlestown was like basketball hoop
Yeah, there was,
outside
you
and
know.
What are you doing?
asbestos.
You missed me.
So in Articles 2 through
Oh.
whatever,
gotcha.
right now it just
yeah.
says for
Yeah.
improvements, so we
Yeah.
know what they're for.
Yeah, usually put in what it's for, because it's
Mhm.
coming out of a trust.
Yeah.
So that goes through the rest of those. Now we're up to number 7. We're still good with that engineering study. Move on with that. If anybody has any changes, 8, 9, 10, where is, oh, number 9, can we please discuss the North Charlestown Community School?
What are we discussing? You should stay on the warrant.
so, May I?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
the floor is yours.
So when we talked about the warrant article originally, the discussion was to remove it from the budget and that the language in the warrant article would then add it back if it should fail. In talking with Matt, his recommendation is that it be included in the budget. And then the warrant article would pull it out.
It's fine. I will go, yeah, it's fine. It needs to be on the warrant.
I don't think anybody's questioning whether it'll be on the warrant or not.
Right, no, it's just, do I increase
Placement
the
in the
budget
budget.
by that amount or? And you're saying vacancy management.
No, no, I don't understand why he's saying that. I'd like to ask him why he's saying that, because because the manner in which the warrant article that passed last year says we don't have to maintain a school there. Okay, it doesn't talk about closing it. You don't have to maintain operations there. So I don't see why we would artificially stick money in that budget if our total intent is to not educate kids there. That's not our intent for next year.
I think it's just, it's a point of legality in that we can't presume that it's gonna pass, right?
Right, but
Right.
even if it doesn't pass, you don't have to educate children there.
Right.
Even if
So
it doesn't pass, he can pull all the students.
That's right, so
into the
why would
primary
you
school and that-
budget a number there other than maybe, I don't know, we'd move money, 20 grand for heat, right, or whatever.
Because there is a caveat with that school, if it is no longer used as an educational facility,
Correct.
if there are no students being educated there, it immediately goes back to the
I
bylaw trustees.
I
Well,
would,
I
I would
don't-
argue if it's an educational center just because students are there. If Charlestown voters do not vote to close it, it's still an educational center. Because it's still is
Part
a
of the
Fall
district.
Mountain
That's right.
School District building. Chris can,
Yeah.
with all his authority, or
Whoever.
Dr. Spence and Mr. Young can make that decision that it is in the best interest of those kids to all move to the Charlestown primary, and that becomes an Alice Cable Center, where she's doing stuff on New Year's Eve.
Well, whatever it is, right, at that
Yeah,
point.
or a special
I
ed
just don't think
building.
we should budget as if you were gonna actually have regular normal operations there, because you're not planning that. All other changes have been made in a budget that was already discussed up 16 ways to Sunday and voted preliminarily. To change now, I think would be very confusing and a mess. So I don't agree with Mr. Upton. But I understand what he's saying about if it doesn't close, we might have to move a few dollars over there for heat or, whatever it is to keep it safe, the building safe, right? If they vote no. But if they vote yes, then it reverts back to wherever it came from.
Right, but if they vote no, it's still an educational center.
So then, if I'm understanding correctly, you wouldn't see any change needed to this language.
No. I wouldn't change the budget and I wouldn't change the language because the one we voted the prior year allowed us to not have elementary operations in the building. So really, the only thing we're talking about potentially having to fund, if everybody goes, oh, no, we're keeping it in the school district, and maybe they will, who knows? If they do, then all we really need to fund is to keep the building preserved and safe, right?
Because Mr. Young said, it is in the best interest of those students, those pre-K students, to be with everybody else. So this school board, no matter what happens to that warrant, the school board and the administration, I would think, would want to do what's best in the best interest of those students.
And we already moved it. So why muddy the waters and confuse the crap out of people by putting all the money back in a North Charlestown budget? That makes no sense to me. We can move funds. It's all one big budget.
I know, but there's nothing in the budget for that.
That's correct.
Well, that was the discussion previously.
So is he
that they're
telling us
still
we're
got the money.
electioneering or what? I
No,
mean, I don't
no.
understand.
Most of this money is for a teacher, right? And we're not
Yeah.
removing that teacher position, we're just moving that teacher to this new position. So we
Right,
have a
yeah.
lot of that money.
We have,
The money's still in the budget, it's just not in the North.
no, there's
Charlestown.
189,000 that was eliminated just to manage the building and to eliminate budget, benefited
Secretary.
positions.
Yeah, there was a teacher and
And
a
a secretary and a custodian.
Okay. Well, we'll have to
So, the original,
scramble.
conversation was.
I don't think we scramble, because the only thing you're gonna need to put back
Mhm.
again is maybe some custodial stuff, a little bit of oil, which if it's on low and you winterize everything, I can't imagine the building's gonna cost more than 20 grand to keep safe.
I'll be interested, I can totally get behind all that. I will be interested to know what deep dive on the deed says in terms of how
Oh,
some
yeah.
people interpret. I mean, I thought I had a copy of it and I can't seem to find it.
Matt doing a deep dive on that?
But I
He's
don't,
supposed to, I know I gave him a copy.
but I
of
don't
that
think
meeting.
that's relevant.
So it's only considered an
Well, it sort of
educational facility
is.
if students are in it?
Well, that's the question.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me that something that old would be that ridiculous. Because
Just don't say that in public.
I'm just saying, Alice Cable is an educational resource to this district. She touches the lives of students, may not be in a classroom. Or Zandra, who travels all over, has a home base. I'm not saying that would be her home base, but if she wanted a home base because Charlestown didn't close it, that might be an option for her to have some peace and quiet.
Put the SAU there and stop renting from Langdon.
There you go.
Save us money.
I know, I was there.
I know.
In the
I
other
will,
old,
as, when we closed Park Street School in, Springfield, it was a huge debate amongst the town people as to whether that was now, whether it was no longer a school, quote unquote. And, it was, it's interesting what people get bugs up their, well, tuchuses for, you know? And so, we just need to be aware of that. So it is something just to be aware of. I think that y'all are bringing up really good points, that there's like when we were talking about the SRO, that's an educational position too, you know? I mean, part of what they're supposed to do is educate. So, yeah.
I think the deed is very clear. If that gets closed, it's the town of Charlestown.
Actually, that's not
South
the
Charlestown,
case.
North Charlestown.
well, we'll find out. We're
It's
gonna
not.
solve it tonight.
But I will tell you that, when we were going through the withdrawal, it came out that the school would belong to the town of Charlestown instead of the district, so there wasn't any question. But that's because the town of Charlestown would have been the school of record for the Charlestown kids.
Right.
And so that changes. If the Fall Mountain District is still the, educational school district for the kids in Charlestown, but they don't use that building, it belongs to the the Farwell trustees. So the Farwell trustees gave it to the school district with the caveat that if it was no longer an educational facility for the children of Charlestown, they would take over again. And so it just is a question about
Is
whether.
there an entity still
Yeah,
of Farwell trustees?
yes, there is.
There's a body of people.
Yes,
Then it goes to them, yes?
They
yes.
can deal with it.
Good.
So
What
this
was
just-
it?
I'm just saying it belongs back to them.
What was the building?
The building, there was the Farwell School.
Oh, it was a school before.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
There's a really great history if you go,
I'll
online
check it out.
somewhere.
I'll find out.
It's
That's not-
historically registered.
I don't wanna waste everybody's time with my silly questions. Thanks.
Okay, so we're having a hearing on that on the 18th at the library in the middle school.
Is the 18th a Monday?
No,
It's a
Oh
Thursday.
God, you're killing me.
Sorry.
5:30? Or 6 o'clock?
I think we try to keep them at 6
Oh my God. Yeah, no, early.
for that purpose, because
to
if
get
it's
here.
5:30, I might not show up.
Well, it's hard for a few of us.
To get there.
To get there.
So there will be a
can we
lot of
keep that
questions.
on the warrant?
Oh, absolutely. That was never a question. The
No,
question
the
is
only
just a matter
question
of
was from
whether we get to keep it or
whether
not
you have to
after.
budget it or not. That was the
No.
question.
So have we decided that we're not going to change the budget? And then,
I think it would be very dangerous at this late time to make changes like that. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree. I think if,
I would defer to Jamie on that.
I'm just thinking that we can, if we need to and have to change, moving 20 grand out of a $34 million budget, even if it's 30 or 40 grand, I mean, whatever that number is to keep it safe and, you
The
know,
water
free
line,
from
the-
harm and all those things, that's not a lot of money.
do we need to add
Lori's
anything to this?
shaking her head, okay.
No, if it's too damn close, then it's, oh wait, I'm still in public, never mind. I'll use my vacancy management and go to a trust fund.
Right?
There you
Because we
go.
can always say,
No worries.
do we need to put any sort of information in terms of the dollar amount in this warrant article to advise the public in Charlestown, the voting public, what this will do if we, whichever way they vote, like.
there was a savings tag on this, right?
Right, it's like 189,000,
But if it's not in the,
it's not pertinent, is it, if it's not gonna go back into the budget?
so
I
that's kind
think
of the
you just-
appeal. If you put it in the budget, then you can put on here, this will
You
save you
still can put it on there.
189,000.
You can put on there that the prior year's vote allowed for the operations to move to Charlestown primary. Therefore, 189,000 has been removed from a North Charlestown budget and
Projected. So not as part of the warrant language, but the information.
Information.
just informational. That, you know, that,
It can go in the digest.
right, by consolidating operations, it has actually netted a savings for Charlestown of this dollar. Doesn't necessarily mean that much has to go back, because you don't want it, you can't put a note on that will sway the vote, it's got to be
Right.
neutral, right?
Very factual.
And we don't want anybody ever saying, well, where's the $189,000? I want that number. I want to see it coming back.
Well, right, but it's been, you can look at the Charlestown primary budget and see it's up.
Never comes back the way it comes in.
That's right. Okay, good. So we will need, those kind of
You know I love you,
numbers
right?
available for the hearing, because those questions are going to get asked. There are a lot of people passionate about this.
When you say the hearing, you mean when Thursday night?
I mean, Thursday, the
February.
18th. So we have some time to work on it, but we will need to have concrete, numbers available for people. I've already got a couple of people sending me lists of questions. I'll
You've
send them
got
on to you to
Garrett.
make sure we have them.
Really?
I think-
So
I
it
think we
requires a
need to-
hearing?
I think we also need to make sure that on Thursday, the 18th,
Why is it
that the
required?
public realizes, whoever shows up realizes that the pre-K is moving to the primary next year, whether or not they close that school.
Right.
So if they would like to pay for an empty school, that's what they're gonna
Well, you
do.
can't threaten.
No, we can't.
Well,
Hold on, Sarah. I hear you.
I think, I say things like that to
Yeah.
Alyssa
Oh,
because
okay.
she will.
Well,
she
how
will-
you say it.
She'll find a way to make it come out better than.
I appreciate that. But I also would like to have Chris and Corey there to explain the
Yeah.
benefits of why we
Children,
did the
yeah.
restructuring that we've done so far.
Right,
I want to hear the benefits that they've experienced.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard
maybe a
plenty-
simple handout with listing what the benefits are, right?
Yes,
Doctor's notes.
but there's something, sorry, I keep getting in your way, I apologize. There's something in the way that Chris and Corey explain that to the parents. I mean, they have taken, staff that was really unhappy with that change. And in almost no time have them on their team and they're succeeding. They see why we made the difficult decision we made and the data that went into it. And so I want to see the next step of success that's given this district, and I want it to be at that hearing. Oh my gosh, okay, are we all good on warrant articles? All right, cool.
Thank you for this, Lori.
Good. All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Please.
Anybody want a second?
I do have a question. If we approve the consent agenda, are we approving this request for Sunday opening of the gym?
Yes.
So you might want
Do
to.
you wanna take it
I'll
off?
Move that off, take it off.
Okay,
Why is it only the high school we don't allow people? We're in the gym all the time and.
I don't, Shelley, I do understand the request, I want to make sure I understand the request. before I approve it. So,
I was
thank
gonna
you.
pull it too, sorry.
okay. Well, that's
Thank you.
fantastic. So, can I entertain a motion to accept the personnel report? Sarah, yes, good. Shelley?
Yes.
Yes.
Jamie, yes.
Me, yes.
Kevin, yes.
Melissa, yes, thank you. All right, the request for Sunday open gym, please ask me a question.
So I don't, do we have the personnel to make, currently, if I read it, it's not like we don't have personnel here to open it. Are we just gonna open the door and let it be open? Is that the way it works?
No. So there's, I believe it's a coach
Nate
that,
has,
yeah,
yep.
Nate wants to open the gym to allow recreational use. It's not on my list of to-do items this year, but at some point, we need to really adopt, in my opinion, a community school model. I don't know what these children do when they're not at school. I don't know where they go, what they do, and I think that we should be providing things like Saturday school, other opportunities so that they can have something to do in a safe, controlled environment. But for this request, I understand the coaches want to come here, and I think there may be somebody else there. Security is there. I learned that we had a security guard
Yeah,
that kind of goes on the grounds.
in the winter, to be
And the-
sure the boilers are on.
And the reason for the request is because we have a policy that
Yes,
prohibits
I
Sunday
was just
events.
looking for it. Thank
That's
you. I
right.
was gonna say, we have a policy about
Right.
Sunday.
So while, yes, we
That's
do
why.
it
Yes,
throughout the
we do.
district on other days, we shouldn't be
On-
without
that's right.
authorization doing it
There
on
is a-
Sundays.
Thank you. There is a
Can
policy.
Dr. Spence issue a pretty clear number to cap it at, so that if there's, you know, if it exceeds a certain amount, I mean, one staff member, and not that I think it's gonna be like a, you know, rush
He's
of
just
people
talking
on a
about his
bus, but.
basketball team.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's
Okay.
just one request
Okay, I
for
thought it
open
was
gym.
open to the, okay. perfect.
Will it not require us to change the policy?
No, because the policy just says that it needs to be authorized by the school board.
Oh, okay. It doesn't say it can't. I couldn't remember what
correct.
it read.
That's
I
right.
knew there was one that talked to Sundays.
We've
That's
entertained
been there
other
a long time.
things, like when the soccer team wants to go and do a Saturday
Oh,
tournament.
that's why it comes
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Makes sense.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
So it would only be open when that coach is
That's
here,
correct.
and that coach is on staff, and he's doing this out of the kindness of his heart.
Well, I think this coach is doing it to get his players something to play. I think it's for additional playtime.
So,
That sounds weird, but you know what I mean, like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's for
Skill
a coach,
building and.
it's for a
Right.
coach for basketball.
so
Or the
devil's
team.
advocate, why would we not make a motion then to say that? I don't know, you might not like it, but let's try it. A motion to say that, here you go, another job for you. That Dr. Spence, the superintendent, has the authority from the school board to allow for Sunday activities in the schools if there are the appropriate staffing. Thank you. Keep
Super.
We could bring it, we
On
could bring
site,
it. we could bring it
available.
on plan. How about we just revise the policy to say that?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
It
that
like
makes
makes
so
sense. That policy seems like it's an old policy.
Very, very, very old.
Yes, it's tied to church, which you're supposed to keep church and
Yeah.
school, state
I heard
separate.
We
It
still
is.
do that?
It is.
Or is that?
They were very
That's a
hot,
whole political-
hot
Okay, I make a
conversation.
motion to approve the request for Sunday open gym.
I second it.
All right, Sarah.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're not doing a motion then to expand it yet. We're just
No,
gonna
we're gonna
change
make
the
the policy.
policy.
We'll
Okay.
We'll bring the
Yes,
policy back to
Jamie,
you.
yes.
Jenny,
I'm good with
yes.
it.
Kevin, yes.
Alyssa, yes.
Can we put that policy on our next thing?
You betcha.
Yes, good.
We have a lot of athletic policies, so
Yeah.
that fit right in.
Yeah.
I don't want
Right.
anything on Sundays that have to be required,
Honest.
but anything optional, I'm okay with.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
Make a motion to
Resolution
accept the
second.
treasurer's report.
I second it.
we're skipping this information thing first, though.
Okay, so it's just information.
It's just information.
We
Okay,
don't have to
so
read it. It's
I still
just
can talk
info.
about it. Perfect. Do I have a second on that? Jenny, Sarah,
Good.
approving the
Not
treasurer.
me.
No, she,
Oh,
What?
she likes this.
nothing. Yes. Jamie, yes.
Yes.
Kevin, yes.
Joe, yes.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
And Sarah already voted. So,
Did we
You're
get to
on.
adjourn?
Can I make a motion to adjourn, please?
Yes. Second.
all right,
Yay,
Sarah.
I want to go to bed.
Feel better. Feel
Miss you
better.
on Saturday, on Wednesday.
I'm gonna go home and play with the state of Vermont.
Oh, Dr. Spence, thank you for a wonderful presentation tonight. Thank you very, very, very
Yes,
much.
Dr. Spence, that was wonderful.
Always, thank you.
RSV shot, and I don't even know what that is.